Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to toy-polloi and part 3 of the restoration of this vintage He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Snake Mountain. Now in part 1 I restored the bridge here, and in part 2 I showed you how to remake the wrist restraints on the right. But as you can see, my Snake Mountain is still in pieces, so we need to get this all put back together. So let's get straight on with that. First up, we're just going to have a quick look at these stickers. Now on this Snake Mountain, these stickers actually didn't need any work. They're in pretty reasonable condition. They've not been applied particularly well, but that's just sort of something that happens with these old toys. Some of the stickers aren't applied particularly well, but they are all stuck firmly, so there's no point in me trying to remove them because I'll just end up damaging them. But as I know some of you will have these stickers missing, I've taken a scan that I found of the sticker sheet from the Toy Jesus website, and I've sort of rearranged it and improved them to make them slightly sort of better quality, because as you can see here, the original stickers for the sort of floor sections are actually in 2 parts, but they will print nicely on one A4 sheet. So I've actually joined the 2 stickers together and tidied up the join, so you now can just print them as one solid piece for both of those sections. I've also tidied up the sticker that goes on the little microphone and speaker part here, and a sticker that isn't available sort of originally on any of the sticker sheets is this sort of return unit sticker. So if you have any problems with this voice box, if it broke, there's a little sort of bit of information here about how to send it back. So I've recreated that as well, and you can download all of these for free from toy-polloi.com, and then you just need to print them out onto the appropriate paper. And for this I would say possibly a glossy print paper for these ones, and this one just needs to be on sort of normal sticky backed matte printer paper. Now, of course, the big feature of Snake Mountain is the speaker and microphone set. Now, when I traded for this Snake Mountain, the guy I traded it off said that he thought this wasn't working, and it is actually working perfectly well. So I've since then tried to buy a broken one, and I bought this one off a guy who contacted me via my Facebook page, and he said that this was broken, and would you know it, this one works as well. All I had to do was mildly clean the 2 contacts here, and this one worked perfectly as well. So there's no sort of actual part of this that needs sort of fixing, which is a bit of a shame. So in future I do hope to be able to find a broken one of these so that I can take it apart and show you how to fix it, but it seems a little bit silly to take something apart that it does actually work perfectly well. The only interesting thing about these 2 is this one here is from the American version of the playset, and as you can see, it's made out of black plastic, and it comes with a sticker on the side that tells you if anything goes wrong with it where to return it to, which is a place in America. Now this one here is from the UK and Europe, and as you can see, it's actually made of a different colour plastic. It's made of the same sort of shade of plastic as the actual wolf head that I have here. So you can see if I hold these 2 bits together that they are noticeably different colours. So it's just an interesting way of sort of telling which version of Snake Mountain you have, the European and UK version with the sort of grey brown plastic, or the American one in black plastic with the return sticker on it. But anyway, let's give these a go and I'll explain how they work. It's actually a fairly sort of simple and old-fashioned spring reverb that you have inside this. So along the length of this is a long spring, a bit like a slinky, but obviously much smaller, and a little microphone at the top. So when you speak into the microphone, your voice also rattles up and down the spring and gives it a sort of reverby effect. That is then fed into a speaker with a little bit of an amplifier in here. You can see the speaker on the back. The amplifier is a bit of circuitry in there, and that's all it is. You have a volume control here. It's a fairly simple and straightforward way of doing sort of a reverb, and it's been used for many years. It's a very old-fashioned thing, and it does work remarkably well. But as I say, if I ever find a broken one of these, I'll take it apart and show you how it works. But this one does work perfectly, so let's give it a go.
This is the voice of the Mr. Ones. We know that you can hear us, Earthmen.
Sorry, wrong show.
This is the voice of Snake Mountain. Ooh.
So as you can hear, it does work. It has a little bit of a tendency to feed back, but both of the microphones and speakers that I have do that, so I think that's just how it was. So we can now start to put Snake Mountain back together. Now I have here, this is the microphone's speaker unit, and if you watched the very first episode when I took it apart, you'll notice that I actually took out a couple of screws that held this in place. I've actually not been able to find any more screws of this size, so for the moment I'm just going to screw it back in using the 2 that I have, and it actually will hold in place pretty well with just 2 screws. There should be 5 originally, but 2 will do the job. I'm just going to put one there on that side, and I'll do another one up that side there. At some point I will find some others that sort of match this one, or just buy some extra screws off eBay or something like that that are the same size, so we can screw that in place. Then there's a battery cover that goes over the PP3 battery that slots in there, and you just have to slide that up from the bottom, I think, like so. The battery cover is often missing on these, so more often than not when you try to collect these, that bit is not there. And then the microphone just sort of holds in place on the front part of Snake Mountain. On the front here we have the little mouth that needs to go back in place, and this is what you're supposed to sort of move up and down, so it looks like the mountain is talking. And it has two little prongs on either side that need to go into these two holes, and obviously the little handle sort of has to go through the larger gap at the back. And again, just try and sort of slot it in neatly from the front, and make sure this right one goes in first. This little right slot goes in first, like that, and then you can sort of carefully push down the left hand one, and you see the mouth is now back in place. On the top of Snake Mountain we also have the doorway to put in place. Now this clips into two little sockets on either side of the doorway. These can be broken sometimes, but I actually haven't got one with a broken one, so I'm just going to slot this in place. It does hold actually without those clips, so it's not really that vital even if they are broken, so we can just clip that in like so. And then we can open this up, and we can also then slot in the snake. As you can see here we have the snake head, and that has a sort of purple base section, and that just slots in. You can see there's two little sort of lips either side there, and you can slot that in, and that doesn't hold in very firmly, so that can easily be removed. And you have the little tab there so that you can control the snake and move it around. We can now also put the gate in place. Now the gate is made of a slightly more rubbery plastic, so this is fairly forgiving and doesn't tend to have any sort of issues with these hinges breaking off, and they just clip onto the two hinges inside the sort of gate hole there. You just clip that on, and you can see that gate goes in quite nicely. Now we can move on to the trapdoor. The trapdoor consists of two pieces, the trapdoor itself and the little sort of bit that holds the trapdoor up. Now this isn't as fancy as the one that's in the Castle of Grayskull setup where you turn the chair. It's literally just this piece that sort of holds the trapdoor in place. So we'll put the trapdoor in. So if I just open up the gate, or actually just move that out the back, you can see that clips in. Again, there's a little hinge on the back, and you just carefully have to push this into the right position. It's a bit awkward to do, and I do feel like you're going to break the plastic again because this stuff is fairly brittle, but you can see that now goes in place, and the trapdoor will fall away until we put the internal part in. So let's open up the inside and we'll put the other piece in place. So we're now back on the inside of Snake Mountain, and this tiny piece is the bit that holds the trapdoor up. So what you need to do is push the trapdoor into the up position, and then there's a hole just on the right hand side here, and you can just push this piece up into the hole, make sure it's sort of rotated around the right way, and push that up in place, and that is what holds the trapdoor open. And then to open the trapdoor you literally just push this lever to one side and the trapdoor falls. It really isn't the most amazing of sort of bits of engineering now. I think the one in Castle Grayskull works an awful lot better, and as you can see the trapdoor doesn't really sort of stay fully up just because everything's a bit sort of loose and floppy, but you get the idea, and you can open the trapdoor like that. Once someone falls through the trapdoor, of course they need to be captured, so inside there is supposed to be a net, and this is held on with these two little sort of posts that fit into the holes here, and they have lots of little sort of barbs on them, which is how you attach the net to it. So first off we're going to push these in place, and they do go in fairly loosely, so they're easy to remove and you can rotate them around. And then of course you have the net. Now if you don't have this net, it's actually the sort of thing you can make out of a mesh shopping bag or something like that, and you can buy fairly similar sort of netting at the haberdashers. It just is black netting made out of a sort of a fairly thickish string, and this really in the original instructions is just sort of loosely hooked onto these little barbs on either side. I've never found an amazing way of hooking it on. You can sort of hook them on the back ones and just sort of hook them around, and then as long as you sort of hooked a few onto these barbs, it sort of holds in place and you can make it look, you know, pretty reasonable. I'll just hook that around and it does do the job. So let's get a figure and drop them through the trapdoor. So who's going to take the fall? Of course it has to be He-Man. So I've carefully balanced him here on the trapdoor. Because the trapdoor doesn't stay up particularly firmly, he's pretty hard to balance, but you get the idea anyway. He's a little bit sort of lopsided there, but he does work. So now if we open the trapdoor, he should fall down and be caught in the net. And there you go, he's fallen and he's been caught. So we can reset the trapdoor and you can see him there captured in Skeletor's net. It's a fairly simple little feature, but it does work reasonably nicely. As I said, the one in Castle Grayscale does work an awful lot better and has the nice feature of being able to turn the throne. But for sort of a simple feature inside this playset, it works reasonably well. And really all of the play features of this playset are on the other side, on the outside. So let's take a look at those. And here we have my finished restored version of Snake Mountain. As you can see, it actually looks like quite a nice playset. It's pretty big, and if you put some figures on it, it looks really quite impressive. And now over the few videos that I've done here, I've fixed a few of the very common things like the broken bridge and the broken wrist restraints. I would like to come back to this at some point and show you how to fix a broken microphone and speaker set, but as I said, I've yet been able to find one that is broken. And also I do want to show how to try and fix the original wrist restraints, but again, I'm still waiting on finding a set of those to use and show you how to do it. So for the moment, this is my restoration set of videos on restoring a vintage He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Snake Mountain. It's a lovely playset and it really does look quite impressive when on display, as you can see here. So I hope that's all been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.